And we are back. Um, Again, this is like maybe the third or fourth week in a row that we've maintained this level of consistency in delivering this podcast in a timely manner. It is Friday. I feel like Friday almost feels like the recording day, but if it if it at all um, it goes a day later or even a day earlier, bear with me. We're still doing this in the midst of living and going with the flow with what life throws at us. But I'm excited about today's conversation. I'm excited about um, the topic I want to talk about as it relates to creativity. But before we get into that, a couple of things. One, I apologize for my voice. Um, there's some, I have a little itch in my throat. So if I'm using my baritone today, bear with me. And then two, I think next to me I hear construction, conversation, either construction or moving, but faintly in the background you might hear that. So I apologize for that too. And I don't want to wait to record this. So, but here we are. Um, we'll start off how we always start off with an exercise in mindfulness, and we generally do that with 10 breaths, focusing on our breath, starting now. Now that we're here and we're present in the moment, as always, I'd like to introduce a brain teaser, a puzzle of some sort to kind of get your mind going. And that's me drinking water, by the way. I'm trying to keep my throat from going dry. Um, the puzzle I have for you today, or the brain teaser, is I am not alive, but I grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. I don't have a mouth, but water kills me. What am I? I am not alive, but I grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. I don't have a mouth, but water kills me. What am I? Um, the weeks are stacking up. I feel like I think I've said this a lot. There's a lot happening outside of this podcast. Obviously, with all of us, right? We're all experiencing life all at the same time, and it's about there's ups and there's downs, and I never get too caught up in the highs, and I never get too caught up in the lows. It's about kind of finding balance and allowing myself that balance. But one thing I've been intentional about is just being in spaces where I know I could get creative inspiration from, just being around good energy, good vibes, positive energy. And as much as I'm saying positive, just energy in general, because I think I was at an event maybe 2 nights ago, and somebody made a comment. It was I was supporting a friend of mine, and he's a financial advisor, and he had said that there's no such thing as poor if everybody is wealthy, or there's no such thing as wealthy if everybody's poor. So you need opposites to be able to measure one side. You need a measuring stick. So as much as I'm being conscious of that, as much as I'm saying I want to be around creative, positive energy, I understand the importance of having some sort of negative energy around as well. So I'm finding spaces that energy exists and allowing myself the ability to, one, use my intuition to figure out which version of energy it's in that space, and trusting my gut and my ability to kind of maneuver in those particular spaces. So fast forward, I went to a really amazing event last night, and usually events have a networking component, and I was, I wasn't necessarily in the mood to kind of network or just kind of play the crowd. So I played the wall last night, but somebody, I guess randomly, but there's nothing random in life, ended up right next to me, and we sparked a conversation, and she was telling me about her journey to New York. She had just moved to New York. She just moved here, and she had mentioned that she's from Australia, and I had asked her what brought her to New York City, and she says her creative journey did, in a nutshell. And that's always been interesting to me, because that's a huge part of my own life path. It's for the most part, my direction is always driven by creativity and where my creativity leads me. And a huge part of that is almost being conscious of my purpose. And I've said this on here numerous occasions, that I feel like I was sent here to inspire, to innovate, and to connect people back to their creativity. And if I look back at my journey to this point, if you didn't even know who I was, I think if you look at my journey, those themes will become evident. Just the decisions I made. Obviously, there's life, there's family, and everything associated with that. But consciously, it was an intentional attempt to chase this idea of whatever I think my purpose is, which I've laid out to you guys. And similarly, she was on had a similar approach to her own existence, and one of the words, going back to the whole idea of theme, one of the things that came up repeatedly is just this idea of alignment. How aligned are you with your purpose? How aligned are you with your creative journey? And that drove the conversation. It was a refreshing conversation, but it was also, it gave, I think, both of us an opportunity to do some self-reflection. And I've gotten a lot of compliments in my life, as we all have. I'm not saying like I'm just this person that has a overflowing cup of compliments, but I've gotten a lot of compliments. I'm saying that to say that out of all the compliments that I've ever gotten, one that I've gotten that felt the most, that I appreciated the most, was, and I'd gotten it recently too. This was maybe a couple weeks ago, maybe a little over a couple weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago. And the fact that I know the exact time when it happened speak to how impactful it was to me. But the person I was talking to mentioned to me that, or from their vantage point, they said, "Swale, you are on path to your North Star." I've never gotten that compliment before. Well, not in that way. I've gotten, "Oh, you have potential. There's this in your future," and all these other things, right? People just like, but I've never heard somebody actually say, "You are on path to your North Star." And for a lot of us, especially in pursuit of our creativity and prioritizing that, there's a level of uncertainty as to what happens next. Am I doing the right thing? Um, are the things that I'm pursuing ultimately going to be acquired or achieved? There's so much unknown in that process, and I think part of the reason I appreciate the journey is the fact that there's so much unknown. But beyond that, um, there is a level of uncertainty associated with just this idea of like, hey, I there's this thing I have, this plan I have for myself, this idea of what I would want my creative journey to look like, and how I would want my life to look like. And I'm saying this understanding that as much as I feel like I am in control, obviously there's I mean, if, depending on what you believe in, there's some level of higher power, or not, depending on your belief or your faith. But there's a saying that I always smile when I hear. It's I told God I had a plan and He laughed. And I'm saying that to say that I don't know exactly what the finish line looks, or what the destination is I don't know what the destination looks like at the end of my creative journey. I don't know that there's actual end. What I do know is I continue to trust the process of it. I continue to trust the path to it. And when I hear others, not that I'm looking to them for validation, but when they're able to see it as well, even though neither one of us can see beyond a few steps ahead, the fact that there is some shared expectation, there is some shared idea of what the future could possibly look like based on the path that I myself are there on. It's almost validating to me, because we all don't know, like, and it's almost like a gut feeling. The reason why I get up every day is a collection of things. It is staying true to my purpose. It is family. It is responsibility. It is the unknown. It is an opportunity to be a better version of myself. And I've come to the realization that as long as I am purposeful and I am intentional, I am authentic and true to my creative journey and to the process, what is meant for me will always be there. It'll always be for me. I cannot escape it. There's a level of delusion that is associated with that. There's a level of faith that drives that, because nothing is guaranteed. Life itself is not a guarantee. But in order to continuously push the boundaries of everything that I'm trying to challenge, in order to give the world what I believe I've been sent here to give, in order to fulfill my purpose, I have to continue down this path. And there's a level of persistence and consistency that it requires, even when there isn't any reward, or at least any immediate reward, and the gratification is not instantaneous. I think it is sometimes it can be frustrating. It can be unrewarding. It can be stressful. It can be a lot of those things. And I feel like as creatives, especially in active pursuit of our creativity, it can sometimes feel like a lonely road. And when we hear the stories of other creatives and other individuals who are on path, and we exchange ideas, we exchange energies, it almost serves as validation and confirmation that it's gonna be okay. Like you're exactly where you need to be. And usually these conversations it's not a measurement of success. It's not a measurement of failures. It's not a comparison between you and said individual. In reality, all it is, it's a human experience. And in giving grace to that person, in that same moment, you're also giving grace to yourself. And you're trusting your own path. And sometimes all it takes is a simple conversation, and that serves as reassurance and peace of mind. I don't know that success is guaranteed. And I think one of our topics prior to previous topics, we talked about your creativity does not owe you success. I don't know that we truly understand our own purpose, or is whether or not we are able to specifically identify our purpose. I don't know if that's on us or for someone else to identify in us. I know what I believe, though. And I also know that you have to be extremely intentional about pursuing whatever it is that you want to achieve. And until that you are willing to make the sacrifice that I think is needed, and it is not on me to tell you what to sacrifice or when to sacrifice it. I think that is something that you will have to ultimately be able to decide on your own. We talked about being so deeply connected to your five senses that it unlocks your sixth, which is intuition. It is a combination of self-awareness, intuition, that gut feeling, and just active pursuit. And if you're honest, leaning into the unknown. I think too often, even when we're on path, we see failure as a deterrent. And I feel like in pursuit of your true purpose, it's not the easiest of roads. And I don't want to confuse this idea of it being easy with, because, so let me step back for a second. I want to say this. I've started to allow the free flow of life and free flow of interactions with others, being less controlling in that regard, in the sense of, let me not dictate how this relationship goes, how this conversation goes, how this experience goes, but go with the organic flow of it. And there's less resistance in the flow. That doesn't mean that it's easy or easier. It just means that there's less friction. And I don't want to create this notion that an easy life is a right life. Or if you were ever to encounter obstacles in your path, it means that you're on the wrong path. I think life is about balance. It's about not necessarily avoiding the extremes, but it's about understanding to not that the extremes are not permanent, and not to dwell too much in those extremes. Find your purpose. Align with yourself, with your creative journey, and walk that path with confidence. Be unwavering about your creative beliefs. Understand that if it is meant for you, it will be. And that journey might not be easy, but it is going to be worth it in the end. And it takes some level of delusion to trust the creative process, and to trust that ultimately, at the end of this, is the life that you ultimately wanted. And it involves you being your most creative self. And I think for me, that is success for me. The ability to create without limitations. And maybe one day we can look back and say it was all worth it. And I think that is my ultimate goal, to be able to turn around, look back and realize that I'm glad I didn't give up. Even when faced with adversity, I stayed true to my beliefs. I was in alignment with my purpose, and I was on path with my North Star. Let's end this. I am not alive, but I grow. I don't have lungs, but I need air. I don't have a mouth, but water kills me. What am I? Fire. Hopefully this lights a fire, the fire you need to propel you towards your purpose and your path. I will leave you how I always leave you. Go be great.